environment of the president's low numbers? Here it comes, the answer. Steve McMahon's a Democratic strategist, and Todd Harris is a Republican strategist. First, herding cats. This Speaker of the House, one of the most likable guys in politics. He carries his emotions on his sleeves. Nobody thinks he's a right-winger, but he's got all these crazy right-wingers that just want to vote no, 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 cut, 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 and they don't care about the consequences. They're embarrassing your party, are they not?
No, I don't think they're embarrassing our party. Look, they're doing exactly what they said they were coming to Washington to do, which is shrink the size of government and roll back the ridiculous runaway spending that's been going on from both parties over the last several decades. This is what they said they were going to do when they ran last year, and it's exactly what they're doing. If you want to understand the role of the Tea Party within the Republican Party, it is not dissimilar to the role of labor in the Democratic Party. It's a small minority, but it's vocal, and they are important when it comes to politics.
It seems to me, Steve, the market's dropped 700 points in 2 days. The country's scared to death of an economic slowdown, and these guys are fighting the last war. They're fighting, what, inflation? What are they fighting? Debt problems? When the country needs demand, it needs economic action, and these guys are slowing it down more.
That's exactly right. If you want to understand the role of the Tea Party in politics today, it's to take the country to the brink of a shutdown and to have the markets lose 10%. So those of you at home, if you want to know how the Tea Party affects you, look at your 401k statement tonight or tomorrow, because the stock market drop, the 700 points, is a direct result of the irresponsible way in which they cut indiscriminately. They don't care. They're like kamikaze pilots. They'd rather crash on the deck and burn everybody than make a deal and
Aren't you being
try to do
unfair to
something.
Kamikaze pilots? I don't know if that's politically correct, but John Boehner today brushed aside criticism for allowing the vote to happen without knowing he had the numbers to pass it. Let's listen to that.
I've always believed in allowing the House to work its will. I understood what the risk was yesterday, but why not put the bill on the floor and let the members speak? And they did.
Dan Aykroyd again. I'm just kidding. But isn't it, the guy doesn't seem to have a grip. Don't you think he'd be happier with regular Republicans instead of right-wingers?
I think...
What happened to your party that's got more of these guys in there that just go in there to just disturb the peace? They don't get anything done.
Because, look, the bulk of Washington wants to go along and get along. If it weren't for the Tea Party and what happened in the 2010 cycle, we wouldn't even be having this conversation about how much to cut. The president...
Okay. You think we're going to get out of this recession by cutting spending?
I think cutting spending. I think regulatory reform. I think there are a whole lot of things we can do to create
This is a novel economic theory, and I didn't realize Todd was an economist, but we'll go with that.
I just play one on.
Let me tell you what happened.
Suppose business cuts spending. Suppose consumers cut spending. By the way, they're doing it. Doesn't that bring the economy to a recession?
The reason business isn't spending is because of all the uncertainty that exists right now.
Todd.
Okay, let's go.
Let me tell you what happened in 2010.
I didn't realize that you were Keynesian, that you think that we can spend our way out of this.
Won their seats in purple districts. Those were swing districts they won. They think that people were voting for their vision of government. What they're going to find out, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, is that people were voting for change, and they're not liking the change that they've gotten.
Okay, here's your chance. Let's shift gears to whether Democrats can win back the House, even in this environment. According to Politico today, Obama looms large in every calculus for House control, buffeted by sinking approval numbers that recently hit sub-40 lows. We just saw Florida 39%. Democrats privately expressed worry about running on a ticket with Obama at the top. How does your Mr. or Mrs. Democratic candidate for Congress, how did that candidate, your candidates perhaps in some cases, win an election up to the point of winning back the House, the 218 they need to do? Can they do that with the president in bad shape?
Yes.
How?
Here's the way they do it. Number one, all politics is local. Tip O'Neill said it. They need to carve out an identity that's distinct from the national party. Two, they need to remind people what's happening in the Republican Party right now. You're going to have Rick Perry perhaps on the top of the ticket or on the ticket. He thinks the Social Security is unconstitutional. Every single Republican incumbent voted to make Medicare a voucher program. That's something that's going to loom large in the election. It wasn't very prominent in the New York race because there wasn't a Republican incumbent, but every Republican incumbent in the House is going to have to defend that vote.
Okay, one unnamed House Democrat put it bluntly, Obama's presidency has fizzled. It's going to be every person for himself in 2012. There just won't be any coattails. Any effect he does have on the ballot will hurt us. That's a Democrat worrying, but the problem I have to ask you, You know, he just said all politics local, and then he slammed you for what you're doing nationally on cutting Social Security and destroying Medicare.
Well, Steve seems
because that affects the senior citizens locally.
Steve seems to be a lot more bullish on House Democratic chances than the actual House Democrats do.
The unnamed crybaby.
Would you run for office as a congrosman or a member of Congress? No. Would you support a candidate saying, "I'm with Rick Perry. Let's get rid of Social Security"?
Look,
it's a Ponzi scheme. Would you do that for? Would you say let's get rid of Medicare and replace it with some sort of
voucher.
Starbucks $10 card to buy health insurance voucher?
I don't think that's anyone's plan. But
what's your response ad going to say when they say Rick Perry wants to take Social Security and give it to the states, and this candidate for Congress voted to make Medicare a voucher program? What does the response ad say?
Well, look, we don't need to prosecute an entire campaign based on the idea that Perry is the nominee. Look.
Let's just take the Medicare voucher program. What does the response say?
I don't think this is
we
any
needed
secret.
to cut spending, and we decided to do it on senior citizens.
Okay, bottom line, who do you think the White House wants to run again?
Perry. Because
okay, thank you.
They can't have Bachmann or
they won Perry. They both won Perry. We're going to call him Perry. Both parties won him. Thank you. Steve McMahon. Thank you. Todd Harris.